Hey, what's up everybody? Frank Valkyria. Welcome to the channel. Today we're doing a spoiler review of Loki, the third episode. So if you haven't watched, go watch, come back. And I was expecting, as the episode started, to get a little bit more delay on knowing the Loki variant, the female Loki variant, that in this episode we discovered that she's called Sylvie. So some of you also know that this is a character in the comic books that is called Enchantress. I don't know much about it. I'm learning as I go. And as soon as the episode begins, we get to see Sylvie trying to get into the mind of Under C20 from the last episode, just before Loki came into this apocalypse world. And she's trying to find out a way to basically go in at the TVA, which she does. Unfortunately, the thing that she realizes really soon is that her power, like for Loki, they don't really work inside this place for whatever reason. So she has to kick some ass the old-fashioned way. And actually she does pretty well, I have to say. Despite not having all the power that you would have outside. After all, she is a Loki, so she knows how to kick some ass, God mischief style. So, of course, we see Loki here in the other episode that basically was chasing her, and now we realize he's going back to the TVA himself. And soon after, they just have to confront, of course, the TVA and Ravonna Renslayer, which seems to be like kind of the boss running the place. They're trying to get to the golden elevator, which she got the information from C20, but they have to, of course, confront Ravonna Renslayer, which wants to kill Sylvie. They teleport themselves into this other place, into this other world called the Lamentis. This is another apocalypse world. For those of you that watched the other video, now we know that the only way to sort of escape the eye of the timekeepers is to hide in places in world where an imminent apocalypse is about to happen, or it's happening, so that the timeline is not skewed with their presence there. And so here we get a little bit to know them. It's kind of funny. I actually enjoyed very much this part of the episode where we sort of see this kind of interesting tension between almost basically what it looks like between two lovers and two siblings a little bit, you know, because of course it's kind of you in a different way. So I thought that the tension here was quite good. And also, you know, the chemistry between the two characters, trying to get to know each other, to see who is basically the most mischievous, I suppose. And at the end of the day, to find out if they can trust one another. The only thing we get a little bit like more talking in this part. When they get on this planet, of course, they have to recharge this device that the Sylvie had taken from the TVA. So they have to find a power source. They soon realize that people on this planet, on this sort of mining planet, are trying to get off. They see that some people are left behind, and they try to find a way to communicate with the lady in this case, which she doesn't take shit from no one. But at the end, after blasting both of them, each one of them using their way of trying to get things done, after blasting them off, she tells them where is the train that will bring them to the ark that it's supposed to set off from the planet. So here we get to see also how they both work in different ways. In the end of the day, they both work together to get the job done. They get into the train and they start to talk to one another. Here there are big reveals, of course, which is quite interesting. We get to know a little bit about the backstories and also how different their lives were, like both regarding how they learned their skills. So Sylvie, she's self-taught, and Loki learned from the mother. Here we learn also a little bit more, reinforcing that idea of how much he loves his mother. And the other way, Sylvie, we see that she didn't really know her mother, so we get a little bit this information asking about love life, you see, about what what are his preferences in terms of relationships. And we find out that Loki is kind of liking a little bit of both, basically stating that he's bisexual. So we get to know. I guess it's also kind of in line with the real Loki in the kind of mythology, in the Norse mythology, but I'm not 100% sure. So there is this kind of big reveal in this part of this episode where we get to know a little bit of like some personal details of Loki, of this Loki here. So it's also very fascinating because you get a little bit this tension in between the two, as if they could almost be, like I said, like siblings or lover. And that in a way makes sense because Loki is a bit of a narcissist, so it feels like kind of he could love himself or herself, you know, like that's the only person that he could truly love, himself. So it's also funny to see this interaction. Then they get caught on the train, and because Loki is basically kind of at the edge of what he can handle in terms of drinking, and even though he seems like he kind of is quite good at keeping it together, but he's at the edge. And it's funny how he says also he's a hedonistic, that basically likes to be at the center of the attention, entertaining the whole, like whatever, probably first class, business class on the train here, singing and dancing and drinking too much. So at the end somebody kind of is suspicious and calls the guards in, and of course they don't have the ticket because he tries to do like a kind of enchantment but doesn't work. And here we get to see a little bit of his power as well, which of course in the real world they work. The thing that I'm kind of surprised a little bit is the fact that you know, his power, they don't seem like very impressive in the real world here, you know, even though he's supposed to be also kind of super strong and like, you know, get wounded very quickly. So in a way, like, I find it kind of disappointing that against just simple guards, Loki is like fighting like this. On Earth, it seemed like much more powerful in the Avengers, in the first Avengers. And also he was tossed around by the Hulk, even though getting injured, but still surviving. So it's kind of strange that here, like, they're punching around just normal guards as if they're just slightly a little bit stronger. But anyway, they end up out of the train. Loki, you know, like Sylvie demands that kind of teleportation device back, and Loki doesn't object, and sort of shows the teleportation device being broken. There's a lot of kind of banter between the two. In a way, I also suspect that perhaps that kind of broken device was an illusion, but that's of course is a speculation. But at the same time, I guess it will be also a good idea because in a way Loki is always, like he says, it's always that step ahead, maybe even of himself, so to speak, and is trying to see if he can trust himself, so they can trust each other, so they can finally start to cooperate with one another. So now, obviously, without the teleportation device, they're trying to make their way to the Ark, which seems the only way they have to get off the planet before the other planet crashes into it and does the inevitable, destroying the world in this timeline or this world, and that's it, with them on it. They make their way into this whatever city, trying to get off planet using the Ark. That's their plan. And it gets a little bit chaotic, of course, because as soon as they get into the planet, things seem to get a little bit worse. But at least we start to see that there is a sort of like sense of trust building between the two now. And I'm kind of curious to see where it's going to go in the next episode. We're also learning here another big reveal, which is that the TVA, all the people working at the TVA actually are variant. And none of them know that they are variant. This is a big reveal because in the beginning of the series, we learned that Timekeeper kind of created this whole world with the people working on it, and now also we can speculate that perhaps Mobius was taken out of the 90s. Maybe he was like a sport person that loved jet skis, and that's why he drinks energy drinks and loves jet skis. One thing here is interesting also, we got to see these where like there's this tower falling down, and Loki seems almost like to reverse time. And of course the first thing that comes to mind, are the time stones and all the infinity stones, which are kept at the TVA as like paperweight. And of course, if those stones work in a real world, I would assume that the way Loki is, he would probably have grabbed few because he's that kind of guy. And of course, I will do exactly the same, especially if nobody gives a damn. And there are drawers full of whatever stones that like Thanos went all over the place slaughtering words to get some, and they're just there in the TVA. Stones thrown, look at that, here and there and there and there. So he goes like, you know what? Let me get some time stones. You never know. So if you keep those things and you are in a word, they're supposed to work. So I'm interested to see if he used the stones here, if he has more stones. Because of course the problem is that if he had like also another Tesseract that he could teleport himself somewhere else, then if it's not an apocalypse word, it will get caught. In this episode we see the Ark gets destroyed, and if the teleportation device doesn't work anymore for real, then they don't really have a way to get off. So the speculation is, one, the Loki has the teleportation device, but then they still have to charge it, or maybe find a way to charge it in the meantime, or is using the time stone to basically go back in time and repeat this thing. Maybe like this they will manage to get on the spaceship, on the Ark, to get off the planet. That would be also exciting in a way. So I'm really curious to see in the next episode how they get off this planet, and to see also perhaps to see who is the big villain of the series, because now we're learning that kind of Sylvie, it's not really the villain. It seems she's not really the villain of this place, but slowly we're getting like more information about the TVA, and the more we go further, the more it seems like, you know, that at the end the real villain might be like the timekeepers in this way, or whoever is behind the timekeepers. So it will be very exciting to see next episode and the interaction between the two, and also honestly also if they both make it to the end as two characters, you know, Sylvie and Loki. So that will be also interesting to see. Anyway guys, what do you think about this episode? I enjoyed it very much. I look forward to see the next one, and ciao.